It's 15 consecutive victories for Real Madrid. They're through to the next round in the Champions League, as we all know, and they're top of La Liga. But they face their toughest test yet this weekend against Barcelona. Hello and welcome to this online version of the match. I'm Pablo Foley-Elias, and joining me, as always, is Sid Lowe. Hi, Sid. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
It's going to be a great game, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. It's been built up as usual, although the build-up's been slightly different because we've had both teams, I think, trying not to contribute to that sense of tension and excitement. So the build-up's been kind of external to the two teams. But in terms of what it represents, this is huge because we're in a position now where a Real Madrid victory would make it a 9-point lead at the top of the table, if indeed Real Madrid are capable of winning. And that, I think, would be very close to definitive for the league title, which wouldn't just mean the league title, it would symbolise, I think, a shift in power in Spanish football.
Well, they've done well this week, of course, against Ajax. They had a great result, didn't they?
Yeah, and an important one in the sense that it enabled Real Madrid to give a rest to some of the key players, to see some of the less frequent players and give them the chance to get some minutes under their belt and show that they can step in and make a difference. But, of course, let's relativise the importance of the game. It was the last game in a group. It enabled Real Madrid to win 6 out of 6, which is very nice, but it didn't really matter because they were going to win the group anyway. And the focus was, to some extent, on the Clásico. Good news for Madrid. Victory, no injuries.
Well, the formation of the team is obviously something that Mourinho's got to think of for this weekend's clash, isn't he?
Yeah, well, I think the formation he's decided on, listening to Aitor Karanka talk today in the press conference, of course, Mourinho's assistant coach, he confirmed that Real Madrid will play with a 4-3-3. The question mark is, what kind of three in the middle? Now, the three up front will be Angel Di Maria, Cristiano Ronaldo and one other, either Karim Benzema or Gonzalo Higuain. The three in the middle, the nature of that three will define how Real Madrid approach the game. I think it will be a relatively defensive three in the sense of at least players who play deep. Xabi Alonso, Sami Khedira and one other, which is likely to be Lassana Diarra or Fabio Coentrao, because it could be that Diarra has to play at right back.
Right.
We're not 100% sure just how fit Alvaro Arbeloa is for this game.
Well, he hasn't been included. Well, he has been included, sorry.
Yes, he's been included in the squad, but we don't know if he's fully ready.
And up front, we'll be seeing what Real Madrid have.
Yeah, well, up front is the big question mark because, you know, it's Benzema or Higuain.
Yeah.
Two players who offer very different solutions to the approach of a game. Higuain tends to be more effective with space in front when Madrid are playing more directly and more on the break. Benzema is more effective in tighter spaces against teams that close you off much more. I'm leaning towards Higuain, but I must say I'm not completely convinced.
Well, during the week, Gonzalo Higuain and Ricardo Kaká spoke to the press, and this is what they had to say.
Creo que esto es importante. Este equipo está logrando muchos números, pero aún no hemos ganado nada. Tenemos que seguir así. Creo que estas cosas son positivas, nos da motivación, pero tenemos que seguir así para al final sí celebrar una victoria. El equipo está muy bien, pero creo que podemos mejorar y seguir creciendo. Entonces, este es nuestro camino.
Estamos bien y lo importante es llegar en esta línea que llegamos, obviamente, y ojalá lograr los 3 puntos.
Well, that was Gonzalo Higuain and Ricardo Kaká speaking during the week after that game against Ajax in Amsterdam. Who do you think Jose Mourinho is going to start on Saturday night?
Well, I think what we'll see is the standard back four: Arbeloa, Ramos, Pepe, Marcelo, unless Arbeloa is not fully fit, in which case we may see Lassana Diarra there. I think if Arbeloa is fit, we'll see Lassana with Xabi Alonso and Khedira in the middle of midfield. If not, Coentrao will be brought in, and the front three will be Di Maria and Ronaldo definitely, Higuain and or Benzema. That's the doubt. Higuain or Benzema up front. I think Higuain, but not completely convinced.
Well, this is the Clásico, so it is Real Madrid against Barcelona. Who are Barcelona? How are they looking?
Well, Barcelona are a very difficult team to judge at the moment. Their home record is absolutely astonishing. Aggregate score this year at home, 39-0. Yeah. It's just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
But away from home, they're really struggling. Away from home, they've won twice, and both of them only 1-0. 1-0 in Granada, 1-0 in Gijón. Not particularly great results. Beaten by Getafe. Something about G's, of course, and problems here. Gijón, Granada, Getafe. And then you've had the 2 draws against the two Basque sides, Real Sociedad and Athletic Bilbao. And that's a pretty poor return in terms of results from Barcelona's point of view. And I think that they'll be genuinely concerned about that. They seem to me still to be a team that physically aren't quite as sharp as before.
Right.
What the Spanish always describe as automatums, that sense of doing things automatically, of knowing how the moves work, of knowing if I go there, he goes there, if I play it to there, he'll be waiting for it. That kind of thing that was so natural before isn't there at the moment. They've changed their formation on a number of occasions. They've changed the personnel within that formation on a number of occasions. And I think there is just a slight lack of clarity about the way Barcelona play at the moment, which at very least has contributed to those bad results, or relatively bad results.
But why is it that all of a sudden not all of a sudden, but why is it that this season we're seeing that?
Right, this season I think there's a couple of reasons. The first one is I think their pre-season wasn't great. And their pre-season, Pep Guardiola has cautiously but publicly criticised the way they handled pre-season, going on tour instead of training hard. I think the fact that players had a break for the first summer in 3 years, and maybe didn't know exactly how to handle it, maybe one or two let themselves go a little bit. I think also there's the natural difficulty of maintaining motivation and momentum when you've just won the League and Champions League double for the second time in 3 years, and so how do you do that? Then you look at the signings they made. Alexis Sanchez, a different type of player, but then he turns up and gets injured. Cesc Fabregas, a player who we assume is there to kind of rotate in the middle of the pitch with Busquets, with Xavi, with Iniesta, instead turns out to be a guy for the front three, playing as a false number 9 role with Leo Messi. So I think you start to see things that have just taken away those comfortable certainties. Now, it doesn't mean in the long term they might not get better, and of course the theory is that they will, but those comfortable certainties in the short term have gone. And I think that has contributed a little bit to just say they're just not as at ease with themselves as they were perhaps last season.
Well, who do you think Pep Guardiola is going to choose for his starting 11?
Well, there's a big question mark over how he lines up at the back. Will it be a 4-man defence or a 3-man defence? He said himself that 3 men in defence, which is a really nice way of flooding midfield and controlling the game and keeping possession of the ball. He said it's risky against those teams that can challenge you for possession and can then play quickly. And Real Madrid are the classic team for that. We saw Barcelona get torn apart by Valencia down the left-hand side when they played 3 at the back. I think 3 would be suicidal, so I've gone for a back 4. No place for Piqué. I think Piqué or Puyol, one of them is likely to not be there. And if one of them isn't, if both of them are there, then of course Mascherano won't be. Busquets, Xavi, Iniesta I think is natural. Up front, Messi, Alexis, Cesc.
Plenty of choices up front.
Yeah, because it could be Messi, Alexis, Cesc, it could be Messi, Villa, Cuenca, it could be Messi, Pedro Villa. One thing's for sure, we'll see Messi. Apart from that, I think I'm bottling it. I don't think I want to be absolutely sure about it. But that's what I expect: Messi, Cesc, Alexis.
Well, that's great. Well, Barcelona must be under a little bit of pressure, because if we take a look at the league table, there are 3 points. There's 3 points difference between Real Madrid and Barcelona at the top of the table. But bear in mind that Real Madrid have a game in hand. Yeah. So as we can see there, Real Madrid are top. There's no changes at the top at all.
No, and then it's been like that for a couple of weeks now. As you say, we make the assumption, and most people make the assumption that Madrid win the game in hand, which they might not, by the way, because it's away in Seville, so it's quite a difficult one. But make the assumption that Madrid win their game in hand and win the Clásico. 9-point lead. That's why I think it may well be decisive. Yeah. I also think that gives Real Madrid a psychological advantage, which it means that they can go into this game thinking if we come out of it with a draw, we're still well placed. Yeah.
Well, if we take a look there at the bottom, Zaragoza bottom, Sporting second from bottom, Racing, no big changes there really.
No big changes, but Getafe, Betis, Villarreal, Mallorca, Real Sociedad, Granada even, despite their recent performances, I think all of those sides will expect to be struggling for a big chunk of this season.
A prediction for Saturday night's game?
I think Real Madrid come into this looking stronger. I'm going to go for Real Madrid 2-1.
Who's going to score?
Sergio Ramos will get the first, a header.
Okay.
Cristiano Ronaldo will get the second, maybe even a penalty. And the Barcelona goal, Leo Messi.
I think I'll make a bet on that.
Yeah, if you lose your money, don't come crying to me. But if you win, I want my cut.
Okay, that's great. Thanks a lot, Sid. Well, that's all we have time for on this online edition of The Match. Don't forget, you can keep updated on all the latest Real Madrid news here on Real Madrid Television, on realmadrid.com, on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. That's all we have time for here in Madrid, so bye-bye.